Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Flash, today's date, April 7, 2025. Time in Texas, about 4 p.m. So President Trump continues to take down the world with the tariffs. And oh yeah, thanks for hitting the like button. That helps my channel to grow. I had a Patriot subscriber talking about trade deficit with China that we've had for years. In other words, the U.S. has been paying these exorbitant tariffs for years to other nations, and then we bring in their goods, and it hurts the businesses in America. So my Patriot subscriber says the U.S. deficit trade with commie China has been about $40 trillion because China charges the U.S. tariffs, but the U.S. in the past didn't charge China reciprocally. Well, that's changing now. Praise the Lord, we have a strong leader who wants to make America great again and puts America first. And my Patriot subscriber goes on. China steals our technology, our intellectual property, makes it cheaper in China, and then sells it back to us, plus tariffs. So that's going on. And now we have this from Breitbart. So China has made this threat to America today that China is going to add 34% tariff to U.S. goods it sells to the U.S. Well, number one, the U.S. consumer has a choice as to whether to buy these marked up goods. But President Trump retaliated against commie China and said if China does this, effective April 9, the U.S. will increase the tariffs on China by 50%. And we have this, trade with China. From 2001 to 2017, took down in the U.S. 3.4 million jobs in all 50 states, primarily in manufacturing. That was the deep state goal. Put all the manufacturing in China, destroy the economy of America. And we're seeing this also in the U.S. We're seeing lawfare going on against President Trump. First, these moves against keep those illegals in the U.S. and keep that USAID money flowing, because most of the, it's 100 judges plus who have moved against President Trump, either received themselves through an NGO, or they have family members who receive money from USAID. So the judges wanted to keep USAID. Many of them, it's speculated, are benefiting somehow from the illegals because they're trying to stop President Trump from deporting known terrorists, Trenda Aragua, MS-13, and so on. So that's been going on. And we're seeing similar deep state lawfare coups in Bangladesh. It's rumored there was a coup recently in Bangladesh. That's a small nation close to India. It's rumored it was led by Victoria Nuland. Now, Victoria Nuland has been cut loose from the State Department. That happened last year. So somehow she's getting money from another source in the U.S. government to overthrow another government, this in Bangladesh, most likely running through the CIA. So President Trump's team, Doge, needs to keep on eliminating money. And we saw protests in all 50 states. And we saw the Soros-backed organizations coming out publicly and stating that they staged all these protests against President Trump. And now it's coming out, all these protesters were also paid, and geolocating based on where their cell phones had been indicates that 80 to 90% of the protesters have also been at previous Soros-paid protests. So we don't see the American people protesting President Trump. We see the commie Dems, the commie rhinos in association with the deep state Soros organization paying protesters. We have also seen lawfare actions in France, where the court said the primary political opponent to Macron, Marine Le Pen, so the current leader of France, Macron, had a court decision go against his chief political opponent, Marine Le Pen, so she cannot run for president for 5 years. We've seen in commie Romania, and it's unknown who is the current leader of Romania, but they had an election like in December. The people elected Colin Georgescu. The deep state commie-controlled government in Romania said, no, we're not accepting that election. We'll have another one in May. Colin Georgescu was going to register for the next election. He was arrested and put in jail. So we see lawfare operating in Romania. We see lawfare operating in Turkey. The leader of Turkey, Erdogan, also had arrested his chief political opponents, the mayor of Istanbul and the mayors of several other large cities. So we see the deep state using lawfare not only in the U.S., but in other nations. And we have this. Yeah, it's 140 judges who have come against President Trump. Now, currently in the U.S., under our Constitution, Congress has full control of these judges and can certainly rein them in. We, the American people, say to Congress, we're awake. 80% of us are awake. Step up to the plate and rein these judges in who do not have the power nor authority under our Constitution to tell the executive branch, President Trump, what he can and cannot do. And we're seeing with President Trump's great economic maneuver, tariffs, we're seeing it affect the markets on a global basis with shorts and longs up and down. And I have known for many decades, as many other people do, even those who benefit from the stock market, that it's really a Ponzi scheme. Many of the stocks of companies are way oversold. So that's going on. And now we have this. And banks are also calling in margin calls. I covered that in a recent video. And we have this. Talking about lawfare in the U.S., Judge Brosberg, whose wife and daughter both benefit financially through NGOs funded by the U.S. government to facilitate illegals in the U.S. Judge Browsberg, totally outside the scope of his power and authority under the Constitution, now threatens to arrest President Trump's cabinet if they don't return the illegals. We're talking about Trinda Aragua, MS-13 plus, rapist, murderers. So this Judge Browsberg certainly needs to be reined in by Congress. And we have this, and from Doge, JB added 4 million illegals to receive the maximum benefit illegally through Social Security. So we see the commie Dems want money. We have this from Alex Christopherou talking about the tariffs, that 50 nations are now ready to negotiate with President Trump. In other words, all these nations have been charging the U.S. Tariffs on U.S. products. Now it's reciprocal, and you see who is having a temper tantrum. And we have some of the nations ready to negotiate: India, Vietnam, Cambodia, Israel, Taiwan. Yeah, Israel was charging tariffs also. And we have in the European Union. The European Union is going to retaliate. As I began, China said they're going to retaliate. So the European Union is having a meeting, a vote, April 9, to increase tariffs to the U.S. and implement by April 15. So that's going on. And it's coming out that the U.S. had been paying tariffs to Europe on European goods on an annual basis, $28 billion. So this covered imports of meat, wine, clothing, washing machines, plus. We see Europe crying because they're now going to have to pay tariffs. And from Hal Turner, today some fake news came out about tariffs, that President Trump was going to pause the tariffs for 90 days. The White House later said, no, this is not true. This did not come from the White House. But this was the effect on the U.S. stock market. At 10:15 this morning, CNBC announced this fake news that the U.S. was going to pause tariffs for 90 days. So from 10:15, 3 minutes later, 10:18, the S&P went up in value $3 trillion. Then at 10:34, the White House came out and made a formal statement. No, President Trump did not say he's going to pause the tariffs for 90 days. 6 minutes later, the S&P lost value of $2.5 trillion. So we see the huge impact President Trump's brilliant tariff economic strategy is having on the world, and all to the benefit of America. This concludes my flash. I love you, and I'll see you soon.